Hey, what is going on, you Moldy and Mewtwo? So Pokemon put out a pretty big announcement the other day, and you guys know I love to hate on TPCI, but I also like to give credit where credit is due, and they put out a pretty complete, pretty timely announcement about the 2024 season, as we're just about to be heading into it in just about a month and a half or so is when the first major tournament is. So pretty timely, pretty complete announcement the other day, and of course, we're going to be focusing on the TCG side of things here because, well, I play the TCG here. So I haven't actually looked at any of the changes that have potentially happened in the VGC or Unite or Go or anything like that. On this first page here is like the main announcement page where they go over a bunch of stuff. We're just going to go ahead and skip right to the bottom here because it's really the only thing that matters. And we'll talk about some of this other stuff that they mentioned here a little bit later. But the big announcement here at the end of this page here is the best players throughout the season can earn invitations to the PokemonTCG World or the Pokemon World Championships. Competitors who have earned the requisite number of championship points during the season will receive an invitation to compete, but all fans are welcome to come witness the excitement of the most prestigious event in the Pokemon Championship Series. The players with the most championship points within a rating zone can earn themselves travel support to the World Championships and a round 1 bye at Worlds. So this round 1 bye thing, it hasn't been like 100% confirmed, but it basically is confirmed by them doing this. And we'll get into like there's now tiers of invites you can earn to the World Championships, but they don't have a huge impact like the current day 2 buy does for the current World Championships and that we've had in the previous World Championships for the last, I don't know, 4 or 5 World Championships. But now you can only earn up to the advantage of a round 1 buy by getting more championship points than you would need for your Worlds invite. So there's still basically a breakdown of like the top 16 players from North America or America and Canada will get a round 1 bye at the World Championships and a travel award, but they won't be getting that day 2 bye like they previously had received for being in the top 16 players. And honestly, as someone who's been chasing the day 2 invite for a while and has acquired it every season that I've tried, I'm fine with the change. I think it changes things up, makes things a little bit different. The whole Worlds tournament is now just kind of one tournament instead of the day 1 tournament that kind of felt like a play into the day 2 tournament. Now it's just all one tournament. I don't think the day 2 system was bad by any means, but I don't mind the change up, and I think this could be a better format for the World Championships overall. And then on top of that, additionally, guaranteed invites to the Pokemon World Championships will be awarded to the following high finishers in premier events, regardless of their championship point total: Regional Championships first place, special events in specifically the Europe rating zone first place, and then International Championships first and second place. So if you win a regional championship, you just get your Worlds invite. You only get 200 points for winning a World Championship, but now you also get your Worlds invite. Me and Chip actually talked about this on our podcast like a couple weeks ago, and we were like, that would be like something cool for them just that. I feel like if you win a regional championship, especially with how big and prestigious they're getting these days, like you probably should just get your Worlds invite. Like I think that's fair, and they did do that, so that's really cool to see, and that means you're never really out of the running to potentially get your invite as well. So if you don't even play all season because you can't, and then you show up to the one local regional and win it, you all of a sudden have your Worlds invite, which is pretty sick. Same thing with the International Championships as well. First and second place also receive a Worlds invite. I think that's fair. I wouldn't have hated to see like all top 8 get a Worlds invite, to be honest. I wouldn't have hated to see that personally, but first and second place is still, I think, a positive change for sure. And then specifically special events in the Europe rating zone, I'm really glad that they are recognizing how big and competitive the special events are over in Europe. I know it might kind of suck to say, but like special events outside of Europe really aren't major tournaments. Like they get like 100 players, 120 players. Special events in Europe, they get like 500, 700 players. Like those are definitely very competitive major events that happen. And I think the reason for most European special events, they would be regionals, except for some like weird regional gambling laws most of the time. I don't know the reason for special events all over the world. Like I don't know why there's a special event in Bogota this last season and stuff like that. But I'm pretty sure the reason that there are special events in Europe for the specific ones that are in Europe is just because they can't hold a regional and have regional prize support at the special event in Europe. I don't know for sure. That's just kind of what I've heard. So that seems reasonable. I'm happy that they are recognizing European special events with this though. So definitely all these changes so far, big thumbs up from me. They're making moves in the right direction. So that's not the only way to, of course, qualify for the World Championship. You can also qualify through championship points. So let's take a look at that next. And here's the table breakdown depending on where you live, how many championship points you will need to actually get your invite. And there was a little bit of talk about this, especially on the Twitter, where people are saying it seems like it's going to be really, really hard to get your Worlds invite as a Masters player in US and Canada at 600 championship points. I think it'll still be about equally hard over in Europe. It's only 500 championship points for Masters, but they have less major tournaments than us and less League Cups, less League Challenges, so just less opportunities to get points overall. So I think Europe's going to have an equally rough time getting to the 500 mark. So I think the invite this year for Europe and America is about, or US and Canada, I should say, is about on par. I will say it does almost feel like we're getting to the point where maybe Canada should have their own separate invite structure or invite amount of points they need to get, because it is kind of expensive for Canadians to come to a lot of American regionals. They only have 2 regionals themselves in Toronto and Vancouver this year, and we'll take a look at those in just a second as well. So I wouldn't hate the idea of like Canada having like an invite that's like 400 points. They do have a lot of access to potential tournaments by coming to American regionals, but it is kind of expensive, like I said, and a little bit more out of the way for them. So I wouldn't hate to see Canada get removed from the US and have their own amount of points needed for an invite. Juniors and seniors also are going to be a little bit harder than they usually are in the past. Usually in the past, juniors and seniors basically just have to show up to their local tournaments, and they'll probably walk away with their invite throughout the season, maybe place decent at one regional. But it's gonna be a little bit harder this time around. 450 for juniors and seniors in US and Canada, 350 for Europe. I have a little bit less information on Latin America, Oceania, and then Middle East / South Africa. So I don't know how difficult these invites are going to be to acquire in these regions, to be honest. I really only have a rough idea about Europe and a little bit more informed opinion on the US and Canada. And it does seem it's going to be harder than last year, but I don't think it being harder is actually a bad thing. I've said in the past that I think the PokemonTCG World Championships being pretty reasonable to get your invite isn't a bad thing, but I also don't think it's a bad thing that's a little bit harder this year overall as well. So I'm really not against this increase in difficulty of acquiring the World's invite. And then I was talking about those different tiered invites that will be available, and here they are right now. So if you get a tier 1 invite to Worlds, you get the World's invitation, a travel award, which is they'll give you probably like 3.5k if it's out of region, 2.5k if it's in region, and then you'll get a round 1 buy as well at the World Championship. So not like you're not playing for that day 2 buy like we've had in the past. And I think it's going to change things up this year as far as the tournament grinders, or whatever you want to call them, the people who are like going to like every single major tournament they possibly can or within reason to try and get that top 16 slot to get a day 2 invite to the World Championships. We're gonna have a lot less of those because the round 1 buy is worth a lot less than a day 2 buy. There probably will be still a day 2 of competition at Worlds, because it'll be like in a more of like a regional structure where you'll have day 1 9 rounds, day 2 5 or 6 rounds into top 8. So that's probably what we'll still have as far as the Worlds tournament goes, the format of it goes, but there won't be people immediately just getting to day 2. They'll be just getting that round 1 buy in that first day of competition, which is still nice, but yeah, it's not really a huge advantage like the day 2 buy was before. So I think we have less people kind of grinding for those top 16 slots. I think most of these top 16 slots will just be filled out by players who really like competing in Pokemon and are just going to go to a ton of tournaments because they really love doing it. And the people who the things fall into place for them to end up in one of those slots, and they might go to a couple extra events, after they win like an IC, or if they win like a couple of regionals or something, all of a sudden they're like, ooh, I'm pretty close to like a top 16 slot here, or I'm in top 16, I'm gonna try and hold my spot, I'm gonna go to an extra IC or extra couple of regionals to try and hold my top 16 slot. So I think we're gonna have less people kind of trying to end up in the top 16 and more people just kind of falling into the top 16 and holding their spot once they fall in there. Then there's tier 2 invites, which is World's invitation plus just a travel stipend. The travel stipend is just $1,000, so it's just a little boost to get those more competitive players, guarantee that they get to the World Championships, give them a little bit something more to play for throughout the season as well. And then there's the tier 3 invite, which is the invite majority of players will have, which is just the base invite. Those 600 points, like I said, for US and Canada Masters, what you need, you'll have the tier 3 invite. And this is how many people get the tier 1, tier 2, and tier 3 invites. Tier 1, like I was saying, for US and Canada is the top 16, like it has been in the past. Tier 2 is the top 22 for Europe, like it has in the past. Top 12 for Latin America, top 4 for Oceania, and then top 2 for Middle East and South Africa. And then the tier 2 invite is a new thing that they just added, but it's really weird. They give it some really weird numbers. I don't know why it's not just the top 16 for tier 1, top 32 for tier 2. It's 5 players, 17 to 22, get a tier 2 invite. Why even add it if there's so few players who can gain this? It feels really weird. I don't know how they came up with this number. Not only does it look ugly to exist, but it just doesn't make any sense to me. I don't know how they came up to the conclusion 17 to 22 plus 5 players. And they added plus 5 as well. Oh, no, they had plus 6 for Europe. So Europe got plus 6 players in their tier 2. Why are they just not top 16 into top 32? Why are we not top 16 into top 32? Doesn't make any sense. Not only does it look ugly, it's just, how did you come to the conclusion plus 5 for US and Canada, plus 6 for Europe? That just is weird to me. Just make us tier 1 top 16, tier 1 for Europe top 16, and then both of our tier 2s top 32 players. I don't know. It's just weird to me. It looks bizarre. And then of course the tier 3 invite is going to be literally everyone else who gains an invite. You win a regional, you get 600 points. You're a tier 3 invitee. And that's all that I think I have to say on the... Oh, here's actually the video game. I was talking about the video game earlier. I have no idea where the video game lands. So the video game's a little bit less than the TCG, but I have no idea if this is hard or not hard for the video game. So if anyone plays the video game, let me know in the comment section down below, or is like in tune with the VGC. Is this going to be difficult? Is this something that is more difficult than last year, or is this feels like a pretty reasonable Worlds invite for most people to try and achieve if they have the goal of achieving that? And then, of course, how do you get your championship points? How are we going to be able to get them throughout the year? So this is going to be the breakdown of best finish limits for the championship points. So league challenges, there's a best finish limit of 6. Now, if you don't know what a best finish limit means, because I get asked this question all the time, best finish limit means the best of X of your total. So best finish limit of 6 means if you play in 8 league challenges, and let's say you play in 12 league challenges throughout the season, and you get points at all of them, and you win 8 of them, it's only going to account for your 6 best finishes towards your invite and your potential for a tier 2 or a tier 3 invite. So if you win 8 league challenges, even if you got points at 12 of them, it would only count 6 of your league challenge wins towards your invite, towards your potential for a tier 1 or a tier 2 invite as well. So you can max out at getting 90 points from league challenges. Go down to cups, best finish load of 6 as well. 50 points for first. You can get a max of 300 points from league cups. Did I say league challenges again? League cups, you get a max of 300 points as well. So 90 points, you can cap at 90 points from league challenges. 300 points from league cups, and this is throughout the whole season. Your best finish limit goes throughout the whole season. We've had some seasons in the past where you've had like a best finish limit of 2 per quarter, and the quarters are the times in between international championships up until NAIC, where the season cuts off for points. So we've had best finish limits of 2 per quarter before. We've had best finish limits of 8 for the whole season. This season we're getting a best finish limit of 6 for the whole season. And for regionals, going to be the same thing as well. Regionals and special events are combined. They're effectively the same tournament for championship points. Once again, 6 best finishes from regionals and special events. So if you get points at 7 regionals throughout the season, only your 6 best finishes will count towards your invite. International championships, there's no limit on international championships, but there's only 4 international championships to go to, so you can get points at all international championships. And I would say, if you're trying to play for your invite this year and you're not going to be able to go to a ton of major events, try and go to more international championships than regionals if you can, because the potential payout for points is really, really high. And that's the one thing that I actually changed up here, is they increased this kicker here for the if we get 2,064 players at an international championship, 1,024, the top 1,024 players will at least get 50 points. So they increased the kicker for that, which does make me think that they plan to have over 2,000 players at EUIC and NAIC this season, which would be great. We're very close to getting 2,000 players at NAIC this season, and I think we could definitely have gotten up towards maybe even 3,000 players if there was no cap. But of course, there's always going to be a cap. There's only so much venue space that they can have. In general, the venues are only so big, so there's obviously always going to be a cap of some sort, but hopefully they at least allow for over 2,000 players at EUIC and NAIC. And that's what this makes me think they are planning to do because of this kicker point here, this kicker number. But yeah, international championships, if you can try and go to like even 1 international championship instead of like 2 regionals, then I think it's definitely worth it if your goal is to try and get your invite this year, because the potential for point payout is so much higher at ICs than it is from regionals. And also there's no limit on the best finish limit, so you don't have to worry about, you know, getting only like a top 64 at a regional and that conflicting with the top 32 you got a regional or whatever it might be. So that's how you get your points. You can get your points throughout the season. Now we can take a look at the regional announcement, or actually let's take a look at this first. Internationals, nothing has really come out for internationals yet. We have no information on where they are. I mean, we know roughly where they're going to be. We know the regions they're going to be in. We just don't know where exactly they're going to be located. And there's no prize payout information yet for internationals or actually regionals, which I think is a good thing. Like if I had to guess, I would say the reason they haven't released the prize payout information for regionals yet is probably because they're changing it, and I don't think they would ever decrease it. So my assumption right now is because they haven't released the information for prize payout for international championships or regionals is because they are going to be increasing it. Now, is that more people are going to get money? Like is regional payout going to increase to top 64, or is first place going to get like 10K instead of 5K? Who knows? But it does make me think they're definitely going to be increasing it, and they haven't just worked out the final numbers yet, would be my assumption. Because if they were just going to run the exact same prize payouts as they have in previous seasons, why wouldn't they just release that information immediately? It doesn't make any sense. So my guess is there's going to be an increase in increase in prize payout at regionals and international championships. How much will it be? I don't know. So basically, we have no info on international championship yet. We know there will still be one in Oceania, one in Latin America, one in America, and then one over in Europe. Where they will be and when are the dates, we don't know. Another thing, a cool point to point out, though, as we head over to the regional championships, though, and we'll talk about the locations here. What ones I'm excited for, what ones I'm like, eh. And none of the regional championship dates or special event dates from Europe, America, or North America, whatever, and Latin America conflict. So all of the dates, none of the tournaments are on the same dates, none of the major tournaments. And the first major tournament that's happens is in Pittsburgh, in America, on September 10th. And the last listed major tournament, and usually America has the last regional before the end of the before NAIC. The last listed major tournament is May 26th. Now, it does say here at the bottom, dates, locations, and formats subject to change. More events may be added at a later date. Usually, we've had around 14 to 15 regional championships in America and Canada. There's only 12 announced, so we still could get up to that like 15 number. The interesting thing, though, is that none of the dates conflict between European regionals and special events. Latin America regional, there's only been one regional announced for Latin America so far, and any of the American and Canadian regionals. So if you wanted to do some detective work, you could theoretically try and find all the weekends in between September 10th and May 26th where there's not tournaments on weekends, and then piece together what dates there would possibly be for other Latin American regionals, potentially special events, and then also the IC dates as well. You could maybe start to piece that together, because it seems like they're trying to avoid confliction between their major tournaments, which is interesting. They've never really tried to do this before. There's been many times where there's European and Latin American and Europe and American major events on the exact same weekend, but now it seems like they're trying to separate them a little bit, which is interesting. I think it's kind of cool, and we can see how that kind of develops into what they're trying to do with that. Maybe they're not really trying to do anything with it, and they just want to have them separate. Who knows? But yeah, you could kind of do some sleuthing here and figure out where the IC dates are probably going to be landing based on what weekends don't have a major tournament on them currently. And with this Los Angeles regional potentially being in May, at the end of May, I think it is possible that we actually have Worlds in July instead of August next season. Because we theoretically, end of May is the last regional here that's listed so far, right? Because the last European one is in, February. The special events might be a little bit different, though. We can take a look at that. There is one, it's actually not. There might be some more European tournaments coming, I feel like, for sure then. Because that's does not reach too far into next year if it ends in March on the special event. So if May is the last major tournament, then we could definitely see NAIC happening in June and then Worlds happening in July. So that's as far as my detective work has gone. It's like, May, NAIC June, a couple key regionals that I feel like are missing here, though, that we've usually had in the past. We'll go through these right now. There's Pittsburgh happening. I've never been to Pittsburgh, so I'm kind of excited to see what it's like there. Peoria, I don't think Peoria is a great location for a regional championship. These ones have already been announced, but I'll go over them anyways. Not a huge fan of Peoria's location. Not a great airport, stuff like that. Sacramento, this one's driving distance for me. Sacramento has a solid airport. This is definitely an upgrade from Fresno, where we had a California regional at the end of last season. So this is a big upgrade to Fresno for sure. Sacramento's pretty chill, so this one I like. Toronto, big fan of Toronto personally. I like Toronto, so I'm happy for that. San Antonio, I've been to Texas for all the Texas regionals in the past. Never been to San Antonio, though, so I'm curious to see what it's like. I don't know what the airport situation is for San Antonio, though. It's not Dallas, so I'm not sure how close in San Antonio is to Dallas, or if San Antonio has their own airport. I might have to figure that out as we get a little bit closer and I have to book my flight, though. Portland's always chill. I'm generally a big fan of Portland. A little bit hard for the majority of the country to get to, though. We're kind of Portland's all the way up there and the northwest. Charlotte's always a solid location as well. Knoxville I think is a solid location as well. Vancouver, once again, I actually really love Vancouver. I love the city there. It's right on the water and everything, so I'm a huge fan of just Vancouver in general. I think the city's beautiful, so I'm glad we're going back to Vancouver. I wasn't sure if we'd get Vancouver and Portland again, because they're really right next to each other, and in the past we've only ever had Portland or Vancouver up until last season, where we had Portland and Vancouver, and they're running it back with Portland and Vancouver again. We're getting Orlando back, which I'm happy to see Orlando over Daytona. Not a huge fan of Daytona, but I do think Orlando is a good location that's very easy for everyone to get to. Really good airport, really cheap airport in general, so it's always going to be a huge regional because of that. Really easy for everyone to get there. Indianapolis, I'm so glad that we're in Indianapolis over... I was talking about I wanted Indianapolis over Peoria, but if we're going to do another Midwest one, Indianapolis is a solid location, I think, for sure. I'm glad we're not going back to, Fort Wayne. Yeah, Fort Wayne, terrible location as far as... I hope Peoria gets axed next season. I think Peoria needs to get the axe. Terrible location as far as airport goes. A lot of people like fly into Chicago and then drive down or get picked up by some friends in the local area. Yeah, Peoria is a terrible location. I think Fort Wayne is equally a bad location as far as airport. Indianapolis has a solid airport. Glad we're going to Indianapolis over Fort Wayne. Yeah, Fort Wayne is not it. LA, I hate LA, but I think it is a solid location overall. So I'm not gonna let my feelings get too much in the way of this one here. I think LA is a solid location for sure. The couple ones that are missing though, there's no Northeast regional championship. We've had Hartford in the past that kind of filled that void. And I really liked Hartford. I feel like Hartford was a really good location, really good spot in general that a lot of people went to. So I think we might see, if we're gonna see any regionals make their way back from previous seasons that haven't been added yet, my guess it would be Hartford would be on that list of regionals we might still see get added here, and then probably something in Madison or Wisconsin. We're missing that one as well. No Milwaukee or Madison regional here as well, and I wouldn't even hate to see it potentially be put in Chicago. Maybe that could be a cool location. Of course, there is Peoria already, but I wouldn't hate to see Chicago as well. But yeah, those are the thoughts on like what I think would be potentially added, because they said more events may be added at a later date, but this could be it. It could just be these 12 regionals, and to be honest, I think that'll be fine as well. It's a little bit less than last season, but I don't think that's the end of the world. Doing it up a little bit different by having all the major tournaments so far from what we've seen are all separate. Nothing is conflicting, has conflicting dates here, which I think would be pretty cool. Being able to kind of follow along the whole circuit of the Pokemon TCG and not just kind of have 3 major tournaments mashed together all at once. Of course, some tournaments throughout here will probably conflict with the tournaments over in Asia. I doubt those are being scheduled the same way. So these are all just the tournaments that are being ran by TPCI, but all the tournaments over in Asia are ran by the Pokemon Company. So I'm sure we'll have some confliction of like major events from TPCI with major events in Japan or Taiwan and stuff like that. But it is interesting that they all the dates are separate here for the ones from TPCI. And that's it. That's all the information that we have. And my opinion on everything that TPCI put out. Once again, like I said, I love to hate on TPCI. A lot of people do, but this announcement was put out way ahead in advance with a pretty complete information. So I got to give them credit where credit is due. They do seem to be improving in general at this kind of stuff. So I am happy to see that. We start, like I said, we still are missing that prize payout for regionals and ICs, and I'm hoping that means it's going to increase. I can't imagine that would ever mean that it's going to decrease. I don't think they're ever going to decrease the prize payout for how big regionals and ICs are getting lately. I don't think they're ever going to decrease the prize payout. So I'm hoping that the fact that there's no information on it just means they're increasing it. They just don't know how much they're going to increase it by, but I'm hoping it's a lot. Let me know if you're going to be going for your Worlds Invite this year. Let me know in the comment section down below. Are you going to go for your Worlds Invite this year? Which regionals are you most excited for, or international championships you're going to try and go to as well? What is your game plan to try and get your invite this season if you are going for it? And if you're not going for your invite, how much are you going to still be playing anyway? So you're still going to be showing up all to your local tournaments, local regionals, maybe try and go to a couple extra regionals just to play the game. It's going to be a little hard to get your invite this season, but do you still enjoy playing and competing in Pokemon so much that it's not really going to slow down or decrease the amount of events you still plan to go to this season? Or is because the invite is a little bit more out of reach than it was last season, are you going to be going to less events overall? Let me know in the comment section down below. I'm very curious to know what the rest of the community thinks about these changes. I think they're pretty much mostly positive, if not all positive, besides the fact we're going back to Peoria. So I'm a big fan of everything, but let me know. See you in the next video. Peace.